Hear me out. New career idea. Uber driving in space.
Welcome to Bad at Board Games.
Well, he's bad at board games.
Or I'm an idiot, and he's good at board games.
It's true. It's true.
I'm Brad Blake.
I'm Toph. I can't even do it. Was that your joke?
No.
Oh, good God. Let's start over again. It's true.
I'm Brad Blake.
I'm Toph Ferguson.
And we're bad at board games, so you don't have to be. Today we're going to be talking about...
Wormholes.
Holes of worms.
Not quite.
Oh.
Not the same thing.
Wormholes.
This is a new game designed by Peter McPherson, and it is published by AEG.
It is.
Yes.
Mr. McPherson made Tiny Towns as well.
Tiny Towns.
Yep. So I have not played that game yet.
I have not.
We will probably get to that maybe before the end of the year. We'll see how it all goes. But we're here to talk about Wormholes, and I like the way it looks. So the appearance, it's as I have these things.
Way to break it.
Like now, but it's just nice and decent. We'll show you some B-roll over this. I like colors. I like how it pops off the table. The components that you're using, the wood, it's got a real nice finish on it, and they all look really nice. It's got kind of a foil, shiny appearance on it, and the cards are, I would say, average. They're not linen finish, but they're not real thin. Mm-hmm. I would say they feel better than Arc Nova's cards. Arc Novas are really thin.
Give me a piece of tissue paper.
Yeah, just trying to give you an idea of kind of like where it's at. But I think it looks nice on the table. You can play it between 2 and 5 players. Always like a nice 5-player game. But I think it looks good on the table. So, what about the mechanics, though? What is Wormholes bringing to the table? Yeah,
so ultimately this is a pick up and deliver game. Mm-hmm. In essence, you are picking up and delivering people, I do believe, from one planet to another. But what's unique about it is you are actually building routes by laying and kind of designing wormholes. So you're able to use the wormholes to travel throughout space, making it a little bit easier to get from one planet to another planet. So it's got a little bit of pick up and deliver. It's got a little bit of route building. It's a little bit of, I don't want to say set collection, but you are drawing cards that have kind of the routes, the tickets, the places that the people are looking to go to. Mm-hmm. And then you're able to spend those to get victory points. And so obviously if you can deliver more people to a planet than just one, it's going to give you a little bit more points. It does have a bit of an auction feel to it as well, because there is going to be a handful of cards that are going to be available for purchase, so you're able to kind of pick and choose what you want. Otherwise, it's drawing cards to be able to get new tickets to be able to deliver more people.
And kind of that movement efficiency.
Yes, very much so. You're very limited in what you can do in terms of movement. And so you only have a few moves to make, and so that's where you absolutely have to be able to use the wormholes. Mm-hmm. And you can use your wormholes or others, but when you use other people's wormholes, they're going to get victory points from it. So it's a little bit of, again, the efficiency side of that. Do I want to allow somebody else to get a few extra victory points so that I can use their routes or not?
Yeah, and zero take that. So it's not taking victory points away from you and giving them just a bank of tokens that if you use somebody else's wormhole to move around, they're going to get a victory point for that. And so you're trying to be efficient, but you want to put out as many as you can as you go. So kind of my story on this is that this was the one, there were 2 games AEG had coming out at Gen Con that I was interested in. One was this one, and the other one was Guild Merchants Explorers. I'll get the name wrong. The Guild of Merchants Explorers. And so that was a 4-player game. This was a 5-player game. I was interested in both. I picked this one on my top 10 list, you can see it up here maybe, because it had 5 players. We have more than 5 players in our group. So, but when I got there, I ended up getting both, because then I found out the other game you can play simultaneously, which I'm a big fan of that mechanic as well. Mm-hmm. And then we've played it a couple times. Well, I played it a couple times at Gen Con, and then we brought it here. We had a great game with the group. Played it a few more times, and it's been fun. Now, I tried to play it with a bunch of teenagers. It was me and 4 teenagers, and that wasn't so much fun. But we'll get to the negatives of this as we go on. So what's your story about this game, Toph?
For me, this is just kind of a almost mellow, chill gaming experience. Mm-hmm. Playing it as a game group, I didn't think I was going to enjoy it when you talked about it. So it was on Brad's top 10 games he wanted to buy at Gen Con. And it was like, okay, well, I don't know much about this game, but he really wants it. And then he started talking about it. And it sounded, take that, at least the way that you were describing it to me, or at least the way in my mind I was thinking it was going to be. And it's not. It's not take that at all. It is just really efficiently moving around the board. And so we started playing as a group. And I think where the fun comes into this is as people are bickering with each other about what they're going to do. I immediately went on to a strategy of trying to con people to use my wormholes and my routes because I wanted the victory points. And then all of a sudden somebody was just like, wait, don't take Toph's routes. He just wants the victory points from it. And then nobody would use my routes for a while. So they kind of got onto that. And so we just bicker back and forth and have a little bit of fun like that. Mm-hmm. And then also the placement of the wormholes too is kind of a fun little, who's going to take what routes, what locations, and then who's going to be forced to utilize the efficient routes. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we had a lot of fun playing it as a gaming group. We had fun playing it, ourselves. I definitely think that having this up to the higher player count, the maximum player count, made it a lot more fun. It got really busy on the board, and everybody was kind of vying for efficiency and route placement, and kind of getting screwed over in terms of having, like, we had a giant hole of nothing here. Right. So it was a fun game. I thought we made more fun of this game than we've had with a lot of the other games that we've played, especially at kind of a mid-weight gaming level. So.
Yeah. And the kind of going on a side tangent, this wasn't that hard to teach. Yeah. I did have to read the rules, a couple of different things to clarify it. But it's easy to teach once you learn it. Yeah. And then as we were playing it, the map, they kind of tell you, like, if you're going to play, they're giving you ideas, because the map can be randomly generated however you want. And there's 2 different sides to it, but there are a couple of extra tiles that if you have 5 people, you're going to add 4 or 5. But if you only have 3, the map gets a little bit smaller. So you're not, you want that interaction between people. The biggest thing I can say about it is when you move, you always want to drop a wormhole. So you get a couple actions on your turn. You're going to be able to move 3 times and draw a card. And in doing those things, the wormhole action is free. You can always drop one, move, bounce somewhere, and then drop another one. Now you have a gateway further apart, and the more people put down wormholes, it's another way to get victory points if you're the first wormhole to a planet, and some different strategies like that. And so you really get into this movement efficiency game as the game goes on. Be like, okay, I've got 3 movements. That's as far as you can move. And so now you're just trying to be like, okay, if I'm on a wormhole, I can go over here for free, and then I can move onto the next wormhole for free, and bounce over here for my second movement, and then can I get on another wormhole that'll end me up at the planet that I want, where I can get my victory points for the cards. So it gets real interesting the further on you get in the game, because the first few rounds there aren't that many options, and then as the board proliferates, you start getting a little bit of analysis paralysis, because you're trying to figure out how to best get the victory points with the cards you have.
And you do have the fact that you only have 3 movements. I think that is one of the things that works well for this, because you are, moving through a wormhole costs you nothing. Moving into a space with a wormhole or out of a space with a wormhole does. And so if you can really have to play that efficient game of, okay, I can take it to here, Now, you always want to drop a wormhole if you can, but you have to drop them in order. So you don't always want to drop a wormhole because you don't want them side by side.
Right.
You want them further apart, but then you also are like, okay, well, this person's really, really convenient and close, and I don't want them to win. And I guess there is a little bit of take that. There's a little bit of trying to vie for a planet because you can only have one wormhole of your own color on a planet. Or surrounding a planet.
But everybody can have a wormhole around that planet.
Sometimes, not always. Like right there's only 3 spots. So sometimes you are a little bit more limited. You may not be able to get all 5 people at one of them. So I guess there's a little bit of it. It's not much like that. But it definitely is utilizing only 3 movements, which that was another thing in the beginning. I thought, you only have 3 movements. How the heck are we going to move across this board? But it can be done. And there's some fun little places in here, too, that we kind of picked on each other for, like... using the slingshot action, or some of the orbiting actions, things like that. So there's a couple of fun little mechanics kind of throughout it. But
what are some of your positives about the game?
It plays quick, so that's one thing that I really like. It's not a long game. You're looking at probably, I don't know if I had to guess, about 45 minutes, maybe an hour. You know, the beginning it's going to take a little bit longer to get going, and obviously this is not a simultaneous play. So the more people that you are playing with, you are going to get a little bit longer of a game. But that's going to be one of the fact that it plays so quick. The fact that it's easy to teach also is very nice as a positive, because we were able to get this up and running with a gaming group almost instantly. I mean, it was, as we were setting up the board, I think you were describing how to play, and then everybody picked up on it kind of quickly. So we all kind of had a good time of not having to sit and go back to rule books over and over and over again to figure out what was going on. Those are my 2 probably biggest positives for it.
Yeah, trying to think. My positives is definitely wasn't super hard to learn. Like I said, I still had to read it a couple times. I enjoy the fact that, and most of the time I would say I don't enjoy this. There is 0 take that. So in a game where you're just trying to like get people understanding and kind of like stop stressing about the game, is like, you can have multiple people on a tile. You can have multiple this. Like, you're not losing victory points to go through somebody else's wormhole. It's just they're going to get a victory point. But when you deliver your passengers, you're going to get 2. So it's just trying to get people to understand that, like, there really isn't that much or any take that, in my opinion. And then it's movement efficiency and drafting your cards from either the space station where you have to pay for them, or just drawing up to 4 cards from your hand. And it has a mechanic where you're able to like keep track of all that stuff, because you're going to move, bounce through wormholes, and then you're going to move again. And so you have these little tokens that allow you to flip that. So I all those to me are the positives. It's easy to learn, easy to teach, and just kind of it flows nicely with an attentive group of people.
Yeah. And I think another positive that I like has to do with the components of the game. I think sometimes as you're playing some of these games, especially as we get into the heavier games, you have a bank of actions that you can take, and sometimes you forget what those actions might be. They have kind of helped that with the game, because as part of the components that you have, you start with these 3 battery chits, and they're all face up, they're all filled. And every time you take a move action that you have to spend a move action, you flip it over. So everybody's always aware of how many turns somebody has taken, or how many movement points somebody has taken. And the same for the cards. So as you draw your cards, you're going to have a token that's in front of you that you can flip over to show, oh wait, I've already drawn cards, I can't do it again. And so as you get playing, especially with a lot of people and everybody kind of joking around, you can see exactly who's next to go when they're ready or when they're done. Little things like that, I think, help, maybe more so with new players, but also helps with gaming groups that we get off on tangents and joke around and have a lot of fun while we play. So,
and I guess another key attribute to this one, I wonder if we need to put these in mechanics. This game has a timer. So it is, if you want to say player determined, but there's a stack of chits depending on how many players you have. And every time somebody puts a wormhole next to a planet, you get a chit and some victory points. The victory points go up. The more that you deliver, or more, the further down on the chit you go. And then once all the planets have a wormhole, there's only 3 turns left.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting mechanic because it's a timer, but it's a player-dependent timer.
Yeah. And just to clarify, it's not just whenever a wormhole, like whenever you place a token, it's when you complete that wormhole. So you have 2 tokens with the same number, and it's next to a planet. And so, yeah, that is a good part of the game. That means you're not going to play forever. Right. And that does kind of drive a little bit of stress in what is normally a chill game. I think at the end, as you're like, oh my goodness, I only have 3 more plays. What am I going to do?
Yeah. How am I going to get the most points every turn and deliver some of these cards? So those are some of our positives. I'll get to my negative, I guess.
Okay, go ahead.
So playing it with 4 teenagers was not a fun experience. You do have to have an attentive group of people that want to sit and play the game. So, if people are kind of on their phones or off, and this may be any game, but I found that like this game was not good for that at all. Like it drug out way past an hour. It overstayed its welcome because people, you kind of need to, because it's not simultaneous play. If you have somebody with analysis paralysis, that could really make this not a fun game. Or if you have people like constantly leaving or not, it's your turn, get back here, things like that. This does not work well with that kind of group.
To be fair, I don't want that in any game.
No, but I've seen games where like you can kind of manage that because, but this was not one of them. So I would say that is kind of a negative on this.
I can see that. But I can also see that especially your boys, especially your youngest, probably would not like this one because there is 0 take that. And they definitely like to take that. I think had there been a little bit of player interaction with the take that, it probably would appeal more to people who like take that games like your son. But I don't know. I can see that. I would be frustrated if we were playing a game and they just kept getting up and leaving and not paying attention. But that's me.
You have any negatives?
I think long term, this game is going to probably overstay its welcome a little bit. I think for me, I would like to have seen maybe a little bit more depth in some areas. Like an objective would be good. So instead of just having the cards where you're delivering somebody and getting the points for it, maybe having something like deliver to the most amount of planets and you get an extra couple points or something like that. I don't really have negatives. It's slow-ish getting started because you can't do much. But once you get going, it plays well. It's a chill game. It's not overly long if you are playing with people that apparently don't stay on their phone and get up and leave the table on a regular basis. So I don't really have many negatives at all. It's absolutely not what I thought it was going to be, and that's a good thing. Because I went into it thinking I was not going to like this game at all. And even the first description, when you tried to tell me about it, we didn't play. And so I just didn't really understand what was going on because you didn't do a full teach. You just kind of talked about it. And then when we sat down, you're like, okay, let's play it. It was like, oh, okay. I know what's going on with this. This makes sense. So,
well, what's the game weight?
Yeah. So this is a midweight game. So BGG's weighting is going to put it at a 2.33. So not the lightest game in the collection by any means. I kind of feel like I would have rated it a little bit lower than that. I probably would have put it closer to a 2, but I could see, 2.33. There are things going on.
There's some mechanics that I would say take it above a 2 though.
Yeah.
And it's just that simple to learn, but you kind of, like I said, when I read it, I had to read it a couple times and be like, okay, I want to understand the flipping of the wormholes and what you have non-action movements and action movements. And I think as soon as you have that, it kind of like,
That's true.
So I think I would say 2.33 because of that.
Because of that.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
It's super easy once you understand that.
It is. Yeah. And I think there's some things that maybe we take for granted because we don't have to teach certain mechanics to our gaming group. So maybe that's where I'm losing some of it. But I mean, it's definitely not any more than that. No, it's definitely not 2.5. It's not a 3.
Yeah.
It's not a medium weight game. Yeah.
It's a medium weight game. So the value of this, what's it selling for, you said?
Selling for 50.
50, yeah. So that's what I paid for it. So I didn't know if it would come down a little bit on mine or not. So if this were $1, it would be a value of 5 or something like that. If it was $100, it would be a value of 1. Right now at $50, brand new game from AEG, I I'm going to say it's like a 3.5. 3.5 to a 4. And it's really going to depend on your enjoyment. I think this was I would probably say that, in my opinion, this should be a $40 game. Yeah. The wood components probably make it, why they raise the price a little bit. And you've got a designer that has a hit game, so they know that's going to add. But I would have rather seen this at 40.
Yeah.
It will probably end up at 40 at some point, and then maybe with some sales less than that. And then I would say it's definitely a 4 to 5. But right now I'm going to say it's like a 3.5. I'm not upset with what I spent, being that I was able to get it a few months before it came out, and so forth and so on. But I would have liked it to have been a $40 game.
Yeah, I think $40 kind of fits similarly designed component wise and size games. Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking. So what's your rating? So we've played it a few times, and where are you landing on your BGG scale?
Yeah, I rated this at a 7, which is a good game that I'm usually willing to play. So that's
where you're at?
Yeah, it was pretty easy for me to be able to rate this one. What about you?
I kind of fluctuated. I would say my first game, I would have said it was higher. Then we had a good experience, and I enjoyed that. And then I was like, had a bad experience, and then I'm not sure. And so, but as I think about it more, and we played it a few more times, I think I'm hitting a 7.
Okay.
I think I'm in the same spot. It's like, there's games I like better that I would constantly want to play. And I will recommend this every once in a while, but it's not going to be something I'm like, oh, let's play this every week, or even for the next few weeks. So I'm happy to play it. It's a chill game. I like the theme, and it's a decent pick up and deliver game, but I still sit it at a 7.
Excellent.
All righty. What do you guys think? Do you like AEG games? What's your favorite AEG game? Have you played Tiny Towns? Did you like that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. We'd love to have you around for some other reviews, playthroughs, and just kind of all-around board game thoughts from us who are bad at board games here. Okay. So thank you guys very much for sticking around. And remember, whether you are a solo gamer, whether you play with family or friends,
enjoy the games that you're bringing to the table. Good night.
Bye.